They can't keep getting away with this, screams the rest of Major League Baseball. The Cleveland Guardians, despite no trade deadline acquisitions, have won 5 of 6 series since the All-Star break, and they are just hanging around after beating the Mets in this series.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to a winning Wednesday edition of Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Justin Lada, alongside Jeff Ellis. This is your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. It is our favorite half hour of the day. We hope it is yours as well, because for the next half hour, we're covering your Cleveland Guardians as we do here every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. From the majors to the minors, the draft, everything between. And we're doing a little bit of all of that on today's show. Of course, I have been watching Cleveland Guardians baseball since I was born. I've been co-hosting this podcast with my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis since October of 2022. And I have been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. That's 18 years.
Oh, don't say that. I've been covering the minors just as long as you. We started at the same time. As you mentioned, I'm Jeff Ellis, the originator of this podcast, I guess I could say. Before here, I spent quite a few years as the lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout and 24/7. And before that, I wrote about prospects at just about every blog you've probably ever read, seen, or experienced as a Cleveland fan. I want to thank you for making today's episode your first listen today and every day, whatever it is you get podcasts, and give some shout outs to Everydayer, Joe Shreve, Mac Killtab, and Big TJ37. If I haven't responded to your comment, there's a good chance I am. And a shout out to Corey, who's named for Corey Snyder as well. Corey Oker, up top of my head. So thank you all for joining us today and every day. Appreciate you all.
We absolutely do appreciate you sticking around with the ride for the Guardians that they are on. 3 games over 500. They are still in this thing. On today's show, we promised we would talk about the 2024 draft class and where they sit today, and talk about the kind of season they're having in pro ball, their first full season. We'll talk about the Guardians in this playoff race, the fact that they're still hanging around, what they're doing, and what we could be looking at the rest of the season. But we'll start off today's show talking about the amazing bullpen that almost shouldn't be absolutely possible at this point. Before we get rolling, this episode of Locked On Guardians brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com. You're going to get 50% off your first year. Jeff, this bullpen, at least on Tuesday, probably shouldn't have been possible, right? We know there's no Emmanuel Clase anymore. Cade Smith has been worked to death recently. Hunter Gaddis was off after having an off night on Monday. Eric Sabrowski has been fantastic, needed the night off. So Logan Allen, he gets himself into trouble early with a wild pitch, walks, there's errors. He gets that key play in the second inning that held the Mets to 2. We'll talk about Logan Allen in a little bit.
Great defensive play by Arias and Rocchio. That's the only reason that happens is both those two guys and what they did. They know what they did.
With Juan Soto up, by the way, who they kept in check all game, which is not something they've been able to do.
Kobe Allard, Juan Soto. That should have advertised him at the trade deadline. Juan Soto eliminator, Kobe Allard.
Yes, that's how it should have been. They could have gotten a king's ransom, right?
Yeah.
If you want to beat Juan Soto in the National League,
you look for what relievers went for.
Los Angeles Dodgers, you wanted Kobe Allard. You didn't get him. Sorry. He belongs to the Guardians, and he is magnificent. No, it shouldn't have happened. Like, again, Logan Allen was in trouble against a really good lineup early. He settled in. He sold the 4 walks overall, but he couldn't get into the 6th inning on a night where you really hoped he could because, again, you didn't have Sabrowski. You didn't have Gaddis. They probably didn't want to go to Cade Smith if they didn't have to, but they had to, and it worked out fine. But you had to go to Matt Festa, who has had ups and downs this year. And then you had to turn to Kobe Allard. And you texted me, Jeff, I'm going to call you out. You texted me.
No, 100%.
Leaving Kobe Allard, which this might have been a results over processing, let's be honest. But he got 4 guys out in a row, including, I don't know how you freeze Juan Soto on a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, but that takes some cojones to do, man.
He does have a 153 WRC plus versus righties, Soto does, and a 108 versus lefties. So he's still better than most Guardians hitters versus lefties. But it is, there is that, there was a logic to it. Let's just put it that way. It's an interesting choice, but there was clear logic to it.
Go to Sabrowski.
Yeah.
So you were giving yourself the best possible matchup, even if it wasn't like it was an under, it was a mismatch on the weight card, as it will. Like Colby Allard had to punch up, and it worked. So good for him. And then Jacob Junis does a great job of jamming Pete Alonso. I will say the Guardians, I don't know if this was intentional, if it's just how it worked out, if it was a scouting report, but Colby Allard especially and Jake Junis, maybe this is a product of their stuff, but if you notice in those late innings, man, they were jamming the heck out of those guys. They were up and in with their pitches, their fastballs, and Junis and Allard, for them to survive, they have to command, right? They have to hit their spots. And they did a great job of not letting Soto or Alonso extend their arms. They were jamming them. That's why you saw those little weak pop-ups all night long. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it was an execution, if it was just a scouting report, if that's just part of the skill set. But man, they were inside on those guys all night long. And the Mets, the only big bopper in that lineup on Tuesday to get a hit was Pete Alonso. So kudos to them because he destroyed them on Monday, the top of the order, crushed them on Monday, and they still won. And then you got it to Cade Smith, who just rolled right through them. This probably shouldn't have been a
The whole
game.
bullpen rolled through them. Let's be honest. The bullpen was perfect for 4 innings.
Yes. I mean, probably shouldn't have won that game. The offense, they guards balled them. The offense guards balled them. They really did. That's what happened. Maybe this is one of those games that you walk away with saying, well, we probably shouldn't have won, but you did, and you'll take it on a night like that.
Yeah, and I know at points we've hated on Junis. I gotta say the crazy thing with that dude is they never hit him hard. No one barrels him, and the value for pitches is often kind of one of those things that's nebulous. Like we'll see, like he's got a negative value on his fastball this year. It was positive. His breaking ball has been positive, like very positive every single year of his career. That breaking ball, that changeup is basically, he needs to throw it even more. It's his third most thrown pitch. He needs to be jamming people inside even more with that, because that is clearly his top one. But he's, since the trade deadline and even before, he's been kind of nails for the pen. He's been a guy they've had to go to because everything's been shortened. But the pen in general is doing its job. The starters are doing their job. Logan Allen is now tied with Williams and Bybee for my 3 stars of the game. Like that's where we are. And Saucony's one behind at 9. The other 3 all have 10. So the pitching did what it needed to do. The hitters did enough, and now you've taken at least 2 out of 3 from the Mets. So we've got one everydayer who always comments about how they're not beating good teams. Well, they swept Houston last month, and they're gonna win the series against the Mets. You keep taking 2 out of 3. That's all that matters. Was it the Yankees are going to lose? So Cleveland is, they're behind Texas as well. But if the Yankees lose, Cleveland's going to be a game and a half out of the wild card. How about that?
They're hanging in there. Yeah. I do want to get to one thing about the bullpen in the second segment. We'll talk about the playoff race a little bit, but I do want to get to one thing about the bullpen in the second segment. So we'll get there as well. The thing about Logan Allen too, again, very rough start for him, right? He had the walk, the wild pitch, the errors that happened, the first 2 innings that were really ugly. The Mets scored a run in the first inning without even a hit. So that was pretty ugly. But man, a lot of reliance on that sweeper on Tuesday night. 6 whiffs. The Mets took 11 swings. They came up empty 4 times. You got 4 called strikes. Fantastic night with the sweeper. I thought it was a good game plan by them. Good game calling by Bo Naylor back there, who just missed that was last year. He just a home run. Rocchio just missed a home run in this one. And Allen spotted his fastball. That's what he has to do. He has to spot his fastball. And that was up in mile an hour. Like, remember coming into the year, Jeff, we were concerned about Logan Allen's fastball. He touched 94 tonight, and he was 90 to 92, topping out 94. So overall for the year, his fastball velocity was up a mile and a half. So if he gets that up there, that his growth, he's continued to grow. The walks are a little bit of a shock because he's not a guy who can afford those, but he has continued to step up in that 5th starter role. We've been spoiled for years with what the pitching staff looks like, and we forget what a good 5th starter looks like. Logan Allen, I would say, is looking more like a 4 starter these days than a 5.
His ERA is very close to dropping under 4, which as a kid was like a mid-rotation starter. He might be more a 3 than a 4. Expected batting average tonight for the Mets, 199. Cleveland's 188, so not much better, but we'll take him any way we can get him.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the offense. We'll get in. I have one more question for Jeff about the bullpen. We'll talk about the Guardians and how they're staying in this playoff race coming up on the rest of this episode of Locked On Guardians.
But as I always say, but first, let's talk about our good friends over at Game Day Hue. I am wearing the hat. I have the golf club right here. And here's what I love about Game Day Hue. Well, before I get into what I love, let's do the official. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Day Hue. So is the hat I'm wearing. For Guardians fans like me, this one hits the mark. What I love, though, is that they make a clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. I don't like big iconography. I can't say the word iconic. You know what I'm saying? I don't like big marks on my hats. I like that I can wear this anywhere. Just a plain, simple hat. I love the fact that, again, nice venting throughout. Perfect for when I'm out mowing the lawn, going to a sport event. I'm going to wear it when I go to the Mets and Brewers game this weekend. And check out the glove. It's not just for hats. Check the split shade gloves made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Right now, you can get 15% off your order with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15.
Thanks for being here with us on Locked On Guardians. As always, make sure you're auto-downloading on audio so you never miss an episode. Make sure you hit the bell on YouTube and subscribe for us so you can catch all of the episodes on YouTube, and you get reaction videos to games, to breaking news. You get the MLB Squad Show, which we do once a week, coming at you on Fridays, which usually I'm a part of if time allows, and I think that'll be the case this week because the Guardians are off on Thursday, so check out that as well. Got all kinds of content for you across the board. All right, the one thing I'm kind of curious, we can talk about the offense because it was kind of a light day offensive, but we can kind of talk about the guards ball of it all. Is how we're fitting the bullpen together without Emmanuel Clase. So we saw the last two nights, Stephen Vogt has gone to Cade Smith as the closer, and Hunter Gaddis got his save last weekend. Stephen Vogt says that he is not designating a closer. Like, it's going to depend on matchups, which I 100% agree with, by the way, in the situation. I do have some past PTSD about bullpen by committee because it's not one of those things that often works. But I will say, in the circumstances, in the absence of what they no longer have, it makes a lot of sense. But I still don't want to pigeonhole Cade Smith into the ninth inning, because if Lindor and Soto and Alonso are coming up in the seventh or the eighth, let's say, that's the save, right? Like, that's the biggest part of the game, is that 3 in the 8th inning, depending on the score. Obviously, if you're winning or tied, that's the biggest part of the game. It's not Vientos and McNeil and Alvarez or Nimmo. Like, you've got to have Cade Smith against the best hitters in that lineup. If that's the 7th and you need the bullpen, it's the 8th. You get Cade Smith, you get to that part, you figure out the rest later. I still think Cade Smith has to be the fireman, and we still have to be channeled into the save doesn't have to be the ninth inning. I know the stats do it, but we have to be channeled into the fact that the save might be the 7th or 8th inning, depending on the situation, who's up in the lineup, the score, who's on base. And if you stick to that, you get to use your best reliever when it matters most. And I know some people aren't going to like this, but as an aside, not that Cade Smith doesn't deserve his money, but you keep him out of the save situations. You keep the money down, because let's be honest, we know that's what Cleveland would like. That's why Emmanuel Clase had the contract, was the closer, and Cade Smith was setting up, and it.
I mean, he was also up first. I mean, Cade Smith was his first year. Clase was already a closer at that point. That was never about much. It was a side benefit. It was
the ideal situation. It was the ideal situation for how this franchise operates. Let's just be very honest about that.
Well, I mean, what it comes down to is an arbitration saves get paid, holds don't. So on a very basic level, it is nice when you have that locked in. I don't know if you had seen in one of our everydayers, the K Left Heat brought up this exact idea in the chat today. And I'm with you guys. I agree that, like, I would personally rather have Cade be the fireman for the middle of the order. He's clearly their top reliever. It's not even close right now with Clase, maybe gone forever. Who knows what that's going to be? I'm just going to put it to the side and not even bother wasting my time digging into it too much, because I have no control. But I'm fine with this idea of having Smith come out in the 7th, 8th, or 9th to face the central part. And then the other thing you have to figure out, though, is some players are built for the 9th and others collapse in the 9th. So then you have to figure out who is actually someone who can handle that extra pressure of being in a save situation. We've seen guys who are just not built for the ninth, and you got to figure out who is and who isn't. You have to figure out who can be that guy, because some just do not respond well in that situation. There's just something about an extra amp up. Roberto Hernandez.
Still have PTSD from 2006.
I always think about him. Yeah, I mean, I think about those. Wasn't that like late July, early August, where he was?
It was like a stretch of July, August, where I think he blew out. He was like 1-12 that year because he lost like 6 games in extra innings or the 9th inning. Yeah,
there's been a few other guys too. So you have to figure out who you can trust, and then you go to Cade to face the worst hitter, the guys who strike the most fear in your heart, I guess. So that I agree with that idea. I think that's the way to go. And you just got to figure out who can pitch the 9th and then have Cade go. I mean, they didn't do it today. Let's be very honest. Sending out Kobe Allard and friends was not.
Technically shouldn't have worked. Good thing a black cat didn't walk in front of them.
No,
and jinx them. Yeah. It technically it shouldn't have worked. I don't know. Kobe Allard's had his good moments, so maybe he's just.
It's a little smoke and mirrors with him, though. I think we can all admit
staying off the barrel, so it's working for right now. But your circle of trust is essentially Enright, Sabrowski, Gaddis, Smith, in some order depending on matchups. And then there's Festa, who.
Definitely has Boats. Definitely is in Boats' circle of trust.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Definitely in the circle of trust there. Offensively, this was just a guards ball win. Like they blooped their way to 3 runs.
2 hit batters,
Yeah, Daniel Steeman kept taking them for the team. Jose Ramirez had multiple chances with runners and scoring.
Jose's had a rough stretch of late with runners. He had the big home run, but he's not getting the hits outside of home
the numbers
runs.
Are good, but he's with runners in scoring position the last week or so has been kind of rough. Let's talk about the schedule real quick before we get into draft stuff and from the 2024 class. So the Rangers just wrapped up a 2-0 win over the Yankees because the Yankees bullpen still can't figure out a hole in the ground from wherever else they exist.
The Mets and Yankees added a lot of pieces, and so far have had nothing but losses to show.
They have 1 combined win. The Mets won 1 game after the trade deadline. The Yankees are a big goose egg after the trade deadline. They sent one of their relievers to AAA, Jake Bird. Devin Williams is still a shell of himself. It's been pretty. Bednar has been shelled too. So I'm
looking forward to when Cleveland signs Williams to a very soft contract this offseason because he wants to get fixed.
Revives him. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's the way to go, especially if Clase is done so.
Yeah.
But again, the Guardians, obviously, we know that the schedule was a little cakey out of the All-Star break. They've won 5
still
of 6
kind of is
now.
8th easiest schedule in baseball.
Right, you just took 5 or 2 or 3 from the Mets. Then you're going to play the White Sox, so you got to take care of business there. You're playing the Marlins, who are very scrappy. The records from Cleveland and Miami are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
The Marlins are still not a great team. There's still a lot of holes there, so you need to play good against them. And after that, you're playing Atlanta, which is a very beat-up team as well. You need to take care of business against them. And, oh, by the way, the teams that are in front of you, the Rangers and the Mariners, you still have 2 series against the Rangers. You still have a series to go against the Mariners. So the Guardians, the teams in front of them are still coming to play them. And they're 7 out behind the Tigers with 8 weeks to go.
And 6 games.
And there's and they have 6 games to go, which you have to go 4-2 in those 6 probably. But look, I don't want to sit here and say things are great and this organization is doing the right things and it's perfect. No, it's not perfect. This year has not been perfect at all. They did not behave like a team coming off of an ALCS run in 2024. They were trying to.
They behaved like the small market teams coming off an ALCS run. They did the same thing every small market team does.
Except for 2017, Jeff. Except for 2017,
and they had a lower attendance that year. With 1 year they went out and bought. Like it's always going to be the point that when they went out and paid for the best power hitter in free agency, that they had lower attendance that year after making a World Series.
I'm not going to let them off the hook for the offseason. They relied on Chase DeLauder, who needs 4 or 5 bionic parts to work. They were relying on hoping Juan Brito would come up. Maybe they were relying on Travis Bazzana. They couldn't control the Ortiz and Clase thing with the way it rolled out. They couldn't control that. But in spite of all that,
if they had Ortiz and Clase, I would say right now they'd be tied for the wild card.
They might have had a soft buy. They might have went out and got a supplemental piece to the deadline. My point here, though, is this. On the field, we can't control what happened at this point in December and January. We can't control what's happened up until today. But the Guardians, for what's on the field right now, They've overcome a 10-game losing streak. They have come back from these 2 suspensions that have been gut punches, especially Class A, and we have meaningful baseball on August 5th. If you would have told me that back after the 10-game losing streak, after the Class A thing, I would have not believed you. So for all the bumps and bruises that have happened this year, all the excuses we could make, at least the games, there's a reason to watch. They're playing meaningful baseball right now. I will take that. All right, we're going to talk a little more about that. I'll let Jeff get in on that, and we'll talk about the 2024 draft class, where they are a year later on the rest of today's Locked On Guardians. Do you ever wish that managing your money felt easier? Boy, Cleveland and payroll. What do we know? What's coming up? Monarch Money. Maybe Monarch Money. The Guardians need to manage that a little bit better. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, not at the trade deadline, but maybe you're planning a big off-season purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat, like having your own personal CFO. It gives you full visibility and control of your finances, more than just your average budgeting app. This is a total financial command center. It lets you track accounts, investments, all your spending in one place. So you're really not just managing your money, seeing where it's going, what you're spending it on. You're trying to build wealth. You're trying to put together a plan. This is what you want Monarch Money for. Again, I've had a very high spending summer. I've had birthdays. I have a lot of summer birthdays in my life. I just threw my mom a big retirement party. I want to buy some new stuff for the house, some projects. You know, the holidays aren't far off. All those kind of things. I need to get on track for all those kind of things. So Monarch Money is personally going to help me out with that. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, Jeff, before we get into the 2024 draft review, the Guardians, like I said before, they're playing meaningful baseball on August 5th. And I don't know, with how this season has unfolded, the twists and turns, the inaction, the injuries, the suspensions, the 10-game losing streak, I don't know if I would have bought that. But again, like I said, not excusing the offseason and everything else and all of the other things that have befallen them, controlled or not controlled. I'll take where they're at. I'll take where they're at given the circumstances.
I do have to say their payroll did not go down, or the attendance didn't go down the year after Edwin. I just double checked it. They still didn't see too big of a bump. It did cross 2 million, which was nice, but
they're going to cross 2 million this year. But the difference is now TV contracts are gone.
Yeah, and and that's just the thing. Like the big problem here, and let's be honest, like, when you had Sherman here, he also invested more and allowed them. Like, they don't get Edwin without Sherman. Since Blitzer's become a part-time owner, it has not infused this team with any extra cash. So I don't think we can even count on future ownership adding. So it is what it is until baseball figures out a broken system. And it's a broken game. You can go back and, they talk about that in the Moneyball book, which, a lot of parts of that, you can take apart that aren't as good or as impactful as maybe they should have been, but it's a broken game. It is a broken game that favors teams that have money versus those who do not. Until that gets figured out, this is always going to be a bottom 5 to 10 payroll, because it's a bottom 5 to 10 market, and it stinks. And it's always amazing to me, and this was why I get accused of being front office friendly, but it's like every other team in baseball is jealous of the consistent success this team has had. And here we go. As you said, it's August again, and they're in the hunt of a wild card. There are teams that go decades
without any business of being in it. By the way.
With overcoming a crud ton of adversity.
It's back. Yeah.
Is it? I mean, it's not back where it was, where they had like 3 aces. Like, it's good, it's solid, but they're doing enough around the fringes. They're doing a lot of stuff. They've built around, a few, because I love Stephen Kwan, and he's one of the stars of today's game, but he was, had a few, like, he's very streaky. He's very up and down. There's not a lot of consistency there. You have one player who's like every single game you expect to do something big, and then another one who by the end of the weekend, he's going to have had a good week with some ups and downs. But like, no one does more with less than this front office. And that's why I'm always kind of like consistently a believer in the front office, because it's not ideal, but somehow they always seem to make the summer fun and interesting. Outside of like 23, like we've been very spoiled in that regard. We don't know what bad baseball is. Like, people talk about it all the time. It's like, no, we don't know what bad baseball is, because we don't really experience prolonged terrible baseball in Cleveland.
And not bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of the front office moves. So Travis Mazzana, 144 WRC plus in AA Akron.
That's terrible. Cut
Obviously,
him.
he is a bust. Yeah, you might as well just, certain
Hey,
writers don't think he's any good. You might as well
Can
just
we also
dump him at
say
this point.
you and I both, people love to come in our comments and talk about like you were right with Nick Kurtz. Where was Nick Kurtz on your board last year? I had him 4. He was 2 on yours, so you were
I had
higher.
him 2.
But like neither of us thought he should go 1 because of positional limiting. It's like, and Bazana's done nothing to make us have any doubt that he's going to be successful.
No, because he had an oblique strain. Like, that's completely uncontrollable and a freak thing because he's never been hurt before. Nick Kurtz, by the way, in college was hurt a lot. There were some injury concerns with Nick Kurtz. And
can I also point out so far this year too, for everyone who Nick Kurtz, 61 WRC plus versus lefties, he's batting 197. So like he is far from perfect, and that's why you kind of always want 2 years of data to look into anyone. Because a lot of guys,
the man, but right now,
I mean, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be very good, but like he's not perfect. The one nice thing for him, I was earlier tracking is the home and away, and he's starting to hit more away. Home or away, it doesn't matter. It's just throw a lefty at him. Like he was not hitting outside of Oakland, but he's been fantastic. It was a great pick by Oakland. Maybe in the end he will be the best player in this draft class. That is not impossible, but I think everyone comparing
hasn't been decided.
Yeah. I think everyone comparing him to Bazana is just it doesn't make any sense.
But the guy who I think no one's talking about, Jeff, if you want more on Travis Mazzana, we talked a little bit about him on Monday's show. So go back, or Tuesday's show, go back and listen to that. The guy that no one's talking about nationally that I think is having the best year of this draft class is Braylon Doughty. So
that's because he's a bust. He's 0-7. He doesn't have a win all year. Yeah. So he's not any good.
Braylon Doughty is 0-7 on the year. He's got an ERA of 3.84 and a FIP of 2.79. All the teenage pitching prospects in baseball, Jeff, so anybody who's 19 or younger and has thrown at least 50 innings this year, Braylon Doughty has the 6th best strikeout to walk ratio at 19.4%. He is behind Ethan Dorches of Milwaukee, who just by a few percent, which was looking like a great pick by Milwaukee, shocking. Francisco,
gotta love Dorches.
Francisco Pazos, who is still in the complex league, Ryan Sloan, who obviously was a fantastic prospect in the draft, and David Shields by the Royals, shockingly. So Braylon Doughty is one of the best teenage pitching prospects in baseball, and nobody is talking about him. He just had the best game of his career last week with 7 strikeouts and 5 1/3 innings. He's starting to see things go in his direction. The Guardians clearly believed in him by putting him in Lynchburg at age 19 to start the season. He was the season opener out there. They clearly believe in this kid, and he's having a fantastic year for his first year in pro ball. And like you said on Tuesday's show, a guy who just hasn't been a pitcher all that long and not a athlete. Baseball player only all that long. Yeah.
Just to give myself a pat on the back. People hate when I do this. Top 5 pitchers I had prep wise in last year's class. I did have Cam and Nitty 1, Sloan 2, Doughty 4, William Schmidt, who went to college, Doughty 3, William Schmidt 4, David Shields 5. So I had 3 of the 5 guys you just talked about as the top 5 guys in that class, all in the top 44. So, yeah, I thought there was a pretty clear divide. I really kind of wish they had jumped on Shields or Sloan over Cozart. That's kind of the one thing I feel sad about. But Doughty has done, he should be erasing all Doughties. You should be believing in him in terms of all the little things that he does. He's just, and as Justin said, one of those things that stands out is not the numbers. It's not the statistics. Like the numbers and statistics are great, but he is an excellent athlete. He was a hitter first. He hadn't been, I think this is maybe his 3rd, 4th year pitching, like in a regular role. Like he wasn't even a full-time, he was more hitter than pitcher until he got to high school. Super athletic. Like the arrow is firmly up on him. And I don't understand why he doesn't get more national attention, because he was a high pick. He was a highly rated player. He's performing very well. And there's not a lot of holes in his game. And again, when you talk about things like athleticism and lack of experience, those are all reasons to buy even harder.
The hitting from last year's class outside of Bazana has been rough. Let's just be honest about that. They have not hit on any hitters. Like Cozart's not hitting outside of a couple of weeks. Garrett Howe, Ryan Cesarini not hitting. And then there's Bennett Thompson, who was hitting early on. He was good for the level. He's kind of cooled off. But the hitting from last year's class,
probably the second most effective hitter right now is Bennett Thompson from last year's class.
Which is crazy. Yeah, it's not been good. Rafe Schlesinger, I've been really impressed by him. I've watched his last 2 starts. He has a 24% strikeout rate. It's almost a 10% walk rate in low A, which is not great. But I still think he's a reliever long term with the way he pitches. But he's impressed me so far this year. I've been pretty happy with that pick. I'd have to say a year later. The book is still going to be out on Joey Oakey because he just made one start in Lynchburg. And Cam Sullivan hasn't pitched this year. Donovan Zask has been interesting, but he cannot find the strike zone. The one guy who hasn't actually pitched is the one I'm most interested in is Aiden Major. He had really good metrics coming out of West Virginia, and obviously he's recovering from Tommy John this year, so we haven't seen him. And then Sean Matson. You brought up Sean Matson last year on the call with the Guardians about, hey, is this guy even the best athlete in his own family? But
he's not. He's not the best athlete in his own family. Let's be very honest about that.
He's not throwing hard. Like, he's 88 to 91, but he's been effective this year. I will say he's been interesting.
Yeah, his for those who don't know, his sister is one of the greatest field hockey players of all time.
She is Michael Jordan of field
hockey.
Yeah.
She is phenomenal.
At North Carolina, no less.
Yeah, and then she became a coach there right afterwards. So I agree. I think he's one of those guys. I can't wait to see him in Double-A just because he keeps performing, and that's kind of the first separator. You got to see or even getting up to Triple-A. Yeah, because it's then we come back to, and I'm already blank, the Wilt Dion situation, right? Like we're going to keep pushing this guy up and seeing when he hits his wall, unless there's something that we don't see, unless there's something crazy in spin rates or something like that we can't tell. I do want to give a quick shout out to the Cam Solke, whose name I'm probably saying wrong, just has been hurt. Unfortunate. I would like to see him pitch. He had some funk in his delivery.
He's back in Lynchburg.
I know, he's got 18 total innings last 2 years. So that's. Yeah. And then Cam Walty's got good numbers at Lynchburg as well. I wish he was missing a few more bats to be a little more interesting. And Connor Whitaker, who do we have on in the offseason who was talking up? Messick.
Friends with Parker Messick.
Messick. Yeah. And Whitaker has good numbers. But again, these are guys who are kind of older for the level. So I'd like to see them move up. And a lot of this class is going to come down to those the high school kids. It's the Okies, it's the Sullivans, it's the Mobleys.
Yeah, Mobley kind of up and down. Sullivan, Tommy Johns, we'll see. Cesarini's in Lake County now. He's replacing Alfonso Rosario, who's up in Akron. All right, we'll be back tomorrow to chat about Guardians Mets Game 3. Jeff and I also want to touch on the guys from the 2024 class the Guardians have acquired. Josh Hartle, Cal Steven, Nick Mitchell. There's more 2024 draft content to review after the Guardians and Mets Game 3. A sweep? Maybe.
We can certainly hope. That much I know for sure. Thank you for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily. I still own those people who have done YouTube or iTunes reviews. We'll get you tomorrow. Thank you all, and go Guardians, go.